The events I am going to tell you are certainly true. But unfortunately they can only be confirmed by me. So I hope for your trust and understanding. I remember all this horror so clearly, as if it happened yesterday, and not 5 years ago. Back then, I lived in a small town. I was in 5th grade and getting pretty good grades for such a fast learner. It all happened in the middle of the second quarter. To us from the city transferred a new biology teacher. To replace a young woman, who, as we, nothing understanding kids, explained, left for family reasons, but we knew that she got knocked up by labor. The teacher turned out to be a 35-year-old young and pleasant man. He had pitch black hair and sky blue, penetrating eyes. He introduced himself to us as Thomas Wilson. He immediately took a liking to our friendly class. He joked a lot, treated us well, and didn't give us too much homework. He marked me right away. Once he said that Nikki was a pretty smart kid. I remember how I was soaked in paint, like a girl, from such praise. In general, after a few months, he became adored not only by students, but also by their parents. Strange things in our town began suddenly. As if the sun suddenly covered the storm clouds. A girl went missing from our class. Her name was Rosie. A cute girl, with blonde pigtails and surprisingly naive blue eyes. It was long hidden from us kids. They kept it a secret and said Rosie was ill, but soon it was leaked to the media, and there was no use hiding it. Weeks passed, but the information on the disappearance of the girl never appeared. And as they say, no body, no case. Soon everyone forgot and calmed down, but for nothing. 3 months passed since the disappearance of Rosie, when the boy Adam disappeared, went for a walk and did not return. What a fuss was made then, and the city police took over the investigation. Parents brought us to and picked us up from school, never let us out on the streets alone, not even for a minute. Everyone began to live in fear for their children, suspiciously squinting at each other in such a way that it was ridiculous. The teacher tried to support everyone then, and we were grateful to him for that. He urged us not to get upset, told us that Adam and Rosie would surely come home and everything would be fine. Everything happened on New Year's Eve. I did not sit at home, and I long persuaded, almost begged my mother, to let me go out to play with the guys, throw snowballs, and I wanted to smoke in general. My mom gave in me playful whimpering, and with a hat on me, she shoved me out the door. Out the door. I went to my older friend, who was then in 9th grade and was known as a hooligan, as even stood on the register. With him I could get cigarettes and maybe even drink some beer. Or something stronger. In our school normal boys started smoking from the 1st, maybe 2nd grade at the most. Smoking and drinking were taught by their seniors. I walked, falling into the snack. My feet were already wet, but my face was happy, because I imagined how I would finally puff on a cigarette. I had to get to an old abandoned carriage house behind the construction site. That's where a bunch of 9th graders off 9th graders. I could already see the shabby green carriage with obscure murky graffiti on the side. The door is ajar, so someone is in there. That's good. I walk up to the door and peek through the crack. There's no light and it's quiet, and I realize it's not like there's anyone there. Maybe they went out and left their cigarettes on the table. I should look in, maybe I'll get lucky. I go into the carriage and light up the space around me with a lighter. I remember the shock I felt when I saw a tall adult man. He had his back to me and was doing something. I immediately jerked to jump out, but was already spotted. The man turned around and... My geography teacher was looking at me, his face was covered in blood and his eyes were crazy. In his hand he held a nibbled hand and smiled. On his bloody teeth I noticed bits of stuck-on flesh off flesh and immediately I felt nauseous. It was like I was in one of my computer games. My body went into a stupor and I couldn't move. And then my favorite teacher said, "Well, hello, Nikki." Then, as I realized later, I blacked out. Consciousness left me. I woke up tied up in some dark room. I was lying without clothes. My head was empty, and I already realized that something terrible was waiting for me. Suddenly, I heard a knock on the door and flinched at the sound of a voice so familiar to me. "How are you feeling, baby? You fell unconscious and I decided to help you. We're gonna have fun with you. You're gonna love it, you betcha." The torturer turned on the light and I squeezed my eyes shut and uttered, "Tell me, what's going on? Is this a joke? Are you kidding me?" My voice sounded like a pathetic squeak. The teacher took something from the shelf. It was a small medical case, opened it and pulled out something metal. It was a scalpel. He walked over to me and stroked my head. Then he scrutinized my body. He was interested in the soft areas: cheeks, earlobes, neck, stomach. And then he stopped at my hands. Your hands look delicious, so why don't we start with them?" He was smiling like a child who got a welcome gift for the new year. "Teacher, don't. They'll be looking for me. I trusted you, how can you?" I tried to find at least some words to restrain him, but I came out only a stupid bleating. "Imagine we're in 8th class. I'm telling you about the human body. If you knew how sweet and delicious it is, this white, juicy meat. Especially when it's as young as you are." I didn't say anything else. I started screaming madly and calling for help. The teacher began to gently cut my flesh and my consciousness faded. I blacked out, feeling one last time. Only a slight prick above the elbow. I woke up suddenly. For some reason my body didn't hurt and I was hungry, my stomach rumbling. The first thing I saw was a white hospital ceiling. My body was covered with a blanket, and I felt something strange. I tried to move my arm, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel my other limbs either. Because they weren't there. Horror gripped me and I tried to call out for help. But there were only strange gurgling sounds. I couldn't feel my tongue either. A nurse looked into the room and, seeing that I was awake, began to explain to me, "Honey, I see you've come to your senses. Well, we thought it would happen soon. You've been in a coma for 5 years. You were found 5 years ago in this condition. The only reason you didn't die is because the bastard who did this to you injected you with a powerful tranquilizer. He was never found. Get some rest and get your strength back. You're gonna need it." She gave me a pitying look and left the room. Later I learned that they found the bodies of other children. Only dead, only I was the only one he left alive. Why? I think about it every minute. Recently, I learned to write with my lips, and at first I was terrible at it, but eventually it became bearable. So I wrote my story in the hope that someone would believe me. Someone would believe me. Do you believe me? The hero of this story died because he chewed with his teeth the tubes that allowed him to breathe, because no one believed him and thought he was crazy, because no one remembers that teacher.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird won't sing...
Friends, check out the other stories on my channel.